Hello, today we're here to talk about the curb process. As you can see behind me, we have the concrete truck ahead of us. On the side of that, we have our curb machine with the curb machine operator and our utility labor up ahead putting in the steel. So we're going to explain a little bit of the curb process of how we pour and prep to get this instilled. So up ahead we have the machine that's set to grade with our detection that has the sensors. There's the sensors for elevation and there's a sensor for alignment. So as you can see, there's two sensors on the side of that machine there. So once we get that machine on grade, which is really on what the surveyors laid out on the asphalt, it'll give us a 2-foot offset with the elevation on the fill that we need to be at proposed top of curb grade. So once we've respected that elevation and have those sensors set to grade, the machine is ready to take off. Behind the machine, whatever the machine doesn't get, as you can see, it molds out the curb, but it doesn't leave it as perfect as when we work it. We have our screed man that is with the blue shirt there, and he is getting the alignment on face of curb correct and getting the top of curb elevation set. So behind the screed man, we have our derby, and that's our derby concrete finisher. That his intent for him is to go ahead and seal the curbs in so they can get ready for final product and pulling up the cream that needs to come with that for the final finish. Behind the derby, we have our back curb edge guy. So he's with the straight edge. He's establishing the back of curb and getting the edger placed on that back of curb. As you can see, he's riding this whole area right now with the edger and making sure that he maintains a straight edge with a 12-foot straight edge that he's got there. And we've got different various positions on labors that are helping us get to this with either shoveling, bringing in concrete, whatever the curb machine doesn't capture, then that's what these guys will pick up the slack. As you can see here, you can't see it now, but they're going to be putting in the joiners that go every 10 to 12 feet, according to what the specification tells you. And they'll start measuring and putting in those joints just in time before the concrete gets too hard. So they'll be measuring them out, putting in the joints, and getting the curb ready for final product. All right, here we're going to be talking about the positioning on the concrete truck, how we set our rebar, how we communicate with the truck driver. So as you can see behind me, we have our concrete truck set up, already pouring out, and we only put one chute on that truck because it's going to be a little bit too much if you add another chute and you won't get the concrete coming out of that area. So your operator or your chute man is always going to be in communication with the truck driver, letting them know to move forward. As well with his rear view mirror, he's also keeping track of that. But what we do is we get the 3-inch slump is what we order for a curb. We order a 3-inch slump. If it comes too wet, we go ahead and give it some revolution so that it gets the slump down to the 3-inch. You can't pour any more than a 3-inch when you're pouring a slip curb like this because it tends to fall and you get a bad product. So once we get the slump established and ready to go, we start pouring out into the hopper, and it feeds it into what the mold is right there that's coming out at a 9-inch Coastal Standard curb. In front of the curb machine, as you can see, we already have all our number 4 rebar laid out through here, and we have one gentleman there feeding the rebar through the slot of the mold. As you can see, the rebar, he's about to pick up the rebar there and place it inside of that notch in the mold, so that we have the reinforcement that the city is paying us to put in. So you'll see him here feeding in that number 4 inside that slot. That is what occurs as you start pouring the concrete curbs. All right, now we're going to get more into depth on how we're going to be using the screed, which is the front line guy behind the curb machine. So like I said before, he's getting all the imperfections that the machine can't capture. So he's got a 12-foot straight edge. He's establishing the back of curb. As you can see, there might be times where there's going to need more concrete. His fellow team members are going to bring in the concrete, and he established the back of curb. Now he's establishing the face of curb. That's a 1x2 straight edge that he's running on that face of curb. As soon as he gets the face of curb established, he'll make sure that top of curb is done. We're using the straight edge. Cutting, you can use it at different angles. Right now he's cutting down, and now the straight edge just needs to be moving side to side to be able to seal the concrete. As you can tell, he's moving the straight edge from one end to the other and working his way either up or never down, but always up and on the top of the curb, side to side, just to seal it enough for him to come back in with the derby. And he will stay directly behind that curb machine so that he doesn't get too far ahead of him and concrete starts to set up. And that's how you run the straight edge. Okay, now we're gonna get in depth on the derby finisher that runs behind the screed man. As you can see here, my fellow teammate has got what we call the derby. It's a 2-handle magnesium float. And what it does is seals the concrete to be able to get it to finished product. He's already have established face of curb with the screed. They already established top of curb with the screed. And now all he's doing is getting the final finished product, getting the concrete curb nice and sealed so that we can go ahead and put the joints in and get ready to broom the concrete. This is a process that has to be working hand in hand, side by side, and as closely as possible so that the screed man doesn't get too far ahead and concrete starts to set up on him. He comes in right behind the screed man, in between the gentleman that's putting the edger behind him, which we'll get more in depth. But that's how you run the derby. You want to use water, plenty of water to seal, to be able to work the concrete, especially on a hot summer day. And same thing with the straight edge. You start from the bottom, work side to side, and bring your concrete up, never down. Always want to bring it up, seal the top, and don't work it, overwork it, because then you start to sag the concrete. So as soon as he seals it, he's done, and he moves on to the next 12, 15 feet that he has ahead of him. That's how you do the derby. All right, now we're gonna get into the final stage of the screeding. My fellow teammate here is establishing the back of curb edge, which you more likely be abutting concrete up to, so you want to make sure you maintain a straight edge, which is what sells the job. What he's using there is a 1x2 straight edge. He's already got the back of curb established with the screedman, with the derby, and now he runs the straight edge behind it and just is running the edger, which gives you a back of curb edge and also finishes the top of curb. He's using a 6-inch edger with the 3/4 inch radius. As you can see, he is putting up the straight edge right at the back of curb and just riding the edger right up against that straight edge, which gives him a perfect straight edge all the way down the back of curb. That is the final stage of the actual screeding on curb. All right, we're gonna get in more into depth on the final finishing of the curb, which you see my fellow teammate here laying out the joints for the curbs. So on this typical Costa standard curb, it calls for 10-foot joints. So every 10 feet, my teammate here is gonna be putting a mark and then running a 3/4 inch hand joiner up vertical on the curb. We gotta make sure that those joints are perpendicular to the road and looking nice and uniform, 90-degree angle going straight up and then going over the top as well. No need to go to the back of curb. But as you can see, he's running the 3/4 inch edger up the curb and up to the top of the curb every 10 feet. And then erasing the marks that the joiner is leaving, he goes ahead and erases the marks so that we don't see the 2 marks that are left behind by the joiner. He'll be doing this the whole way down on the curb, excluding the expansion joints, which are the black felt that goes every 40 feet in between the curb. So he'll be throwing those joints all the way down the curb, the whole length, and then behind that joiner will be coming in with the broom to give it the final product.